Hey everyone, Fluffy Dragon here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the easiest Loremaster spells to craft. I'm sure most of you know that crafting lore spells can be a huge undertaking because of how many reagents you need for them, so I thought that it might be helpful to narrow down which lore spells have the easiest recipes. Keep in mind that this is all based on my opinion and experiences with crafting in the past, so you may have a different opinion, which is totally fine. I did try to be as unbiased as possible with this though, so let me explain how I determined which spells made the top 5. First, I looked at the amount of amber required for each spell. The amount varies from spell to spell, but the lowest amount needed is 12, going up from there to 18, and then to 25. Amber is considered one of the hardest reagents to obtain in the game, so if any spell required more than 12 amber to craft, it was instantly out of the running. Next, I looked at the amount of treasure cards needed to craft the spells and whether or not they are easy to get. Every spell recipe requires between 6 and 10 treasure cards, but some are way easier to get than others. I decided that if the TCs aren't available in the bazaar on a regular basis, they shouldn't qualify for the top 5, because anyone looking to craft the spells would have to either farm or trade for more TCs, and that's definitely not as easy as just buying them at the bazaar. Every spell also requires at least 2 super easy reagents such as Perfect Amethyst and Ghostfire, which you can buy from a standard reagent vendor. Because these are all pretty much the same in terms of cost and availability, I basically ignored them when ranking the spells. Believe it or not, all that was the easy part, because then I had to look at all the other reagents needed for each spell. Since most of the spells require different reagents, I had to come up with a way to compare them all. I looked at the recipes for the spells I had left and ranked every reagent needed for them by their difficulty to obtain. I assigned numbers ranging from 1 through 5, with 5 being the most difficult. Using these numbers, I multiplied the amount of each reagent needed by the difficulty ranking I assigned it. After doing this for all the reagents needed for a spell, I added up the numbers to get a final difficulty score. Just as a quick example, I gave bronze gear a score of 3, and I gave scrap iron a score of 1. So if a spell required 100 bronze gear and 50 scrap iron, after multiplying the amounts needed by their difficulty, the total score for that spell would be 350. I really hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, just trust me when I say I've done the math. So now that you understand how I determined which spells are easiest to craft, let's get into the actual list. In 5th place is Samurai. This spell requires 6 Samurai treasure cards, 100 Perfect Amethyst, 200 Ghostfire, 100 Water Lily, 100 Bronze Gear, 50 Spring, 50 Sunstone, and 12 Amber to craft. Overall, the reagents for this spell aren't all that hard to get, you just need a lot of each one. Most of the reagents for this one pop up pretty regularly in the bazaar or can be easily obtained through farming or transmuting from other reagents, all except for Sunstone, which can definitely be a pain to get, so the fact that you need 50 of it for this spell puts it in 5th place even though most of the other reagents aren't so bad. In 4th place we have Catalan, which requires the exact same reagents as Samurai, but I put it higher up in the rankings because you buy the recipe from Grady instead of Master Yan Can Cook. Grady is easier to get to in my opinion because you only have to fight one battle to reach him in Dun Skaith, as opposed to the entire dungeon you have to go through to get to Master Yan Can Cook. Other than that, Catalan is pretty much the exact same difficulty to craft as Samurai, but the fact that you can get to the recipe vendor with less effort puts it slightly higher. Third on the list, we have Lord of Night, which requires 6 treasure cards, 100 Perfect Onyx, 200 Ghostfire, 50 Nightshade, 25 Turquoise, 50 Scrap Iron, 25 Sunstone, and 12 Amber to craft. The fact that this spell only requires 25 Sunstone makes it much easier than the previous 2. Sunstone isn't super difficult to obtain, it can just be time-consuming and annoying, so the less you need of it, the better. Other than that, Nightshade can be annoying to get, but you can get it as a rare harvest and transmute it from deep mushrooms, which aren't too hard to find. It also shows up in the bazaar every so often, so if you would rather try to snipe it from there, that's not a bad option either. Turquoise is the only other difficult reagent, besides Amber of course, and that's because it's pretty much only obtainable through drops from enemies. If you don't already have the amount of turquoise you need for the spell, it could end up being a major pain to get. I do see turquoise in the bazaar occasionally though, so worst case scenario you could always try and get more that way. Even though some of the reagents you need for Lord of Night can be somewhat difficult to get, the fact that you only need 25 Sunstone makes this spell one of the easiest ones to craft. Second place belongs to Winter Moon. Its recipe is very similar to Lord of Night, requiring 6 treasure cards, 100 Perfect Amethyst, 200 Ghostfire, 50 Grendelweed, 25 turquoise, 50 scrap iron, 25 sunstone, and 12 amber. Again, since this spell only needs 25 sunstone, that instantly makes it easier than almost all the others. I ranked it higher than Lord of Night because in my experience, Grendelweed is easier to get than Nightshade. There's a very easy place to farm it from Frostflowers in Mirkholm Keep. You just go to the pond near Herkir and keep switching realms until you have enough. It also shows up more often in the bazaar from what I've seen, so that makes the spell very easy overall. The only problem with it is that the bazaar will occasionally be out of Winter Moon treasure cards, which is why I couldn't give this spell the number 1 spot. Before we get to our number 1 spell, I want to talk about some honorable mentions real quick. First up is Ninja Pigs, which is about the same difficulty as Samurai and Catalan. The reason it didn't quite make the list is because it requires 10 treasure cards instead of 6. The other reason is that I know you can very easily get the spell as a drop from Kodo in Mushu, which makes it not even worth crafting in my opinion. And before anyone says it, I know Samurai can be obtained as a drop in Mushu as well, but I haven't personally tested how often it drops like I have with Ninja Pigs. This, and the fact that you need a few more treasure cards to craft Ninja Pigs, made it not quite reach the top 5. Another honorable mention is Krampus, which is also about the same or maybe even slightly easier than numbers 4 and 5. Most of the reagents aren't too bad to obtain, and you actually need one more purchased reagent instead of one that you have to farm somehow or find in the bazaar. This makes it much easier than a lot of the other spells, but unfortunately the treasure cards aren't regularly available in the bazaar because they are only common during the holidays. Unless someone randomly sells their spare Krampus treasure cards, you won't see these TCs in the bazaar until Christmas in July, or actual Christmas, comes around, making it kind of a limited time thing. Finally, for our last honorable mention, I wanted to throw in Luminous Weaver. Personally, I don't consider this spell very easy to craft. To be fair, it's still one of the easier spells for sure, because the treasure cards are regularly found in the bazaar, and it still only requires 12 amber, but the other reagents needed for it can be pretty difficult. However, this is in my opinion the easiest life school spell to craft, so I wanted to include it since I talked about at least one spell for every other school already. Alright, in first place we have Savage Paw, which requires 6 treasure cards, 100 perfect ruby, 200 ghostfire, 50 fossil, 25 turquoise, 50 scrap iron, 25 sunstone, and 12 amber. Fossil is the main difference between Winter Moon and this spell. You can get it as a rare harvest or from transmuting stone block, which is commonly found throughout the spiral. Fossil also pops up pretty often in the bazaar, so you could always wait around to buy it from there. Ultimately, the deciding factor between Savage Paw and Winter Moon is that Savage Paw treasure cards are absolutely always in the bazaar, while Winter Moon treasure cards occasionally sell out. So there you have it, guys, the top 5 easiest Loremaster spells to craft. I really hope you all enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to my channel to see more Wizard101 content. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan to craft any of these spells, or even let me know if you disagree with my list and think that a different spell should have made it onto it. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Just so you all know, my next video is going to take a bit longer to make. I know my videos already take a while, but I'm still very new to this and I put a lot of time into researching and editing for videos like this one. My next video is going to be more of what I want to do with this channel in the future. I have a big surprise in store and I think you guys are going to really like it. Thank you again for all the support on my previous videos and be sure to stay tuned for my next one. Bye!